back. It's been a while. A bit of an update. It's July 2021. COVID is giving Sydney a big run for its money. Things looking a little bit scary, and I'm getting vaccinated tomorrow, which is extremely exciting. In other news, I've finished the first semester of university this year, which is fantastic. One subject I just barely got over the line by the skin of my teeth, and that's because when my interim approval came through to teach, I got inundated with requests to do casual teaching, which is super validating, great for the bank balance. It's super hard to say no because there's a shortage of casual teachers. But that affects your grades because you put a lot of time into work, which is brilliant, and you learn things, but that's time you're not spending studying. So I was doing on average about 2.5 days a week casual teaching plus my own private tutoring commitments, while I was also doing a full-time university load. Anyway, lesson learned. Wanted to show you something that I've been learning this semester at university in a subject called computational analysis, and we're using Excel to do algebra and calculus. So here's the first problem that I'm going to show you here on the iPad. We're going through quadratic equations, and if we start with the basic scenario here, we've got the traditional quadratic equation formula here, and they're like, we want you to program that in Excel. Okay, well, here's what that looks like in Excel on my MacBook. I've put the first value in one cell. It's minus b plus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And here is minus b minus the square root. So far, so good. And if we pop across to Desmos, that's an entirely unsurprising result, he says. I'm just going to tame this MacBook a little, this iPad. So there we go, -1 and negative 2/3. And those are the roots that we expect. Well, now that we imagine that we have a is 0, so in fact what we have is just an equation of the form bx plus c equals 0. Well, that's going to give us x is minus c over b, which is still a real solution, but the quadratic equation, of course, will fail because you'll be dividing by 0. So we need another solution for that. Well, here's what I've got. And I've called this new a because I had a problem naming the cells in Excel, but that's not important right now. If a is 0, then we just say, look, the solution is negative c over b. Otherwise, pop ahead and go those other two solutions. And we've got this result here. Now, if I set a equal to 0 here, it solves it for me, which is fine. Whereas if I was to try and do that up in here in my original equation, it would wig out completely, as you would expect, because Excel's being asked to divide by 0, which it flat refuses to do. The third scenario is to go for an imaginary number solution, or at least to flag for it. So in Excel, we test whether b squared is less than 4ac, because if it is, then you've got the square root of a negative number, and we haven't got up to that yet. So again, in Excel, and I've solved this in a different sheet, here is my code. We say if a is 0, well, we go and do what we were doing before. It's negative c over b. Alternatively, if b squared is less than 4ac, then we say, hey guys, we have an imaginary scenario. Otherwise, and you'll notice that this if here has a second bracket because we've got a nested if statement over here, we pop off and do our other solutions. And so here's the scenario. Actually, I'll go back to our basic scenario. There it is. If I put a is 0, we get -4. If I undo that and I set this to 8. Now we would just think, because of the y value there, or the constant term, this is not going to appear, it's not going to cross the x-axis in Desmos, and that's where we were before. So I'll just pop that in there, and now we're going to have to scoot out because as we can see, it doesn't actually hit the x-axis at all. So there are no real solutions there, but we've identified, at least for the purposes of this exercise, that the roots are going to be imaginary. So there's the brief code, and just a bit of fun that I'm having in Excel. The other great piece of news, of course, is that as part of my scholarship with the Department of Education in New South Wales, I have been told where I'll be teaching in 2022, COVID permitting. Thanks for watching. Appreciate all the follows on Facebook and YouTube. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel now. Really appreciate your support on this journey. Take care.